Because we are live around the country by the NBL One website or the NBL One app. You are here tuning in post-game in the Coles Express 2022 NBL One South season. Round 14 has commenced and Hobart getting the win in this one by 27 points, 93 to 66. And Jacob, while we're waiting, what were your thoughts on the game?
A really impressive second half from the Chargers, wasn't it? It was a bit of a scrap in the first half and almost felt like a positive they were only down by 2 points, but to blow it out the way that they did and really put a strangle on the game at both ends of the floor, I think it's a massive statement, isn't it?
They talk about, Jacob, they talk about how Jared Bairstow is such a glue guy and an impact guy for this Chargers team, and you can sort of see the same with Sam McDaniel as well, and they seem to translate that really well from the NBL to the NBL One. I mean, you've got to see how important that is, that you've got guys coming from that level who could play well and beyond and above themselves at this level to still stay and know their role and really gel and connect a team.
Absolutely. There's a lot of buy-in from this group, isn't there, for guys to accept their roles like that. And as you say, Jared Bairstow and Sam McDaniel, when they do decide to, take over a couple of possessions, you can see how easy it can be for them. But the fact that they don't do that every time down the floor is what allows this team to have so much depth and to not have anyone be unhappy with their role on the team. So, yeah, they seem to be in a really good place, don't they?
They just keep flying along, Ronnie.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. And, of course, they've got Sandringham next week. Now, that's going to be a tough matchup. Sandringham pretty much with half the Melbourne United bench on their team,
Absolutely.
Jacob. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup next Friday night.
Yeah, and just looking on paper at the talent that's around, you'd have to think that this is going to be one of the most exciting matchups of the season, isn't it?
We've spoken about it. If Jacob could grab the headset.
We're still live. We'll go a post-game show.
We're still live.
We'll go a couple more minutes and then, of course, we'll wrap up and sign off. But let's go, JB. Here we go.
As we talked about, a bit of a post-game show. So, Jacob, we've now in a position, 2 more home games, obviously, for both sides. For the women, you can see where that form has been and you can sort of see where the legs are running out a little bit. Obviously, they've got a couple of games here where they can disrupt things. What is it for the women's side that they need to take out for the rest of the season as far as, looking forward, obviously, to the next season, but understanding you've still got 2 games to go. There's obviously a good chemistry that's come between this group and, the girls that are in are really well connected.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot they're in, isn't it? Because, as you say, they're not going to be playing finals basketball, but at the same time, where maybe last season they were still chasing that first win fairly late in the season. That was the motivation. They've proven now that they can win games at this level. So I think it's a bit of playing for personal pride for those players to keep showing that they can play at this level and that they deserve to, and maybe playing a bit of a disruptor for the teams that are trying to make the finals. But it's a tough one to play out through to the end of the season in that kind of situation, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and now we kind of wait on some results and let's see what happens on Monday as far as where Hobart, now finish. And of course, as we mentioned, Jacob, they've got Sanjan coming up, and then of course Northwest Thunder. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Hobart now approach these last 2 games. Anthony Stewart mentioned in his press conference yesterday that it's really important these next 3 games. The coaching staff have to quickly work out how this team gets their chemistry right and how they gel together. Now I felt like the second half they did that. First half there was some teaming issues.
Yeah, it was a really scrappy first half, wasn't it? It was interesting seeing some of the things that happened with the rotation in response in the second half. Obviously, Ollie Angustine was hampered by fouls, but he played a lot less than he has in the past, and Jacob Richards came in his place and had a massive impact there. And as we heard from him, he's really on a bit of a hot streak at the moment. So, yeah, little tinkering like that. It'll be interesting to see what they change down the stretch, and at least they have got a buffer at the top of the table now.
Well, now they're 4 games clear on Mount Gambier, so it's really important that Mount Gambier try and win, tomorrow night as well too. A few of these teams only have about 3 or 4 games left within their actual, the 22 games. So really important to see how this top 4 shapes, and then who we may potentially play in the first part of the finals.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because the Chargers have that big gap at the top, but then the rest of the way down, you've got 2nd through 7th all on 12
and
or
then
11
7th
wins.
through 12th is gelled together as well. Like it's such a dichotomy of competition. I mean, you look at someone like Waverley tonight where, okay, they go down here. If they go down tomorrow, they can go from 8th right down to 12th if things, other results don't go their way. I mean, just to quickly flip back on the Hobart side, they take that loss last week in what was a game that, they essentially didn't play great in. They had a small burst and then sort of fell flat from there. I mean, there's never a great time to lose, but you'd have to say that a loss like that couldn't have come at a better time as far as grounding the unit, getting Sam McDaniel back in, and everyone realising the role they can play. You mentioned Angus Stein with limited minutes tonight due to fouls, but it's got to be comforting from a coaching standpoint. I mean, you cover, as we mentioned all the time, you cover the game so broadly across the country. To see a side to be able to sort of re-gel like that and come away with what was essentially a dominant second half win, got to have a lot of confidence in this squad, not only for the next couple of weeks, but certainly going into finals.
Absolutely, and yeah, there's not too many teams in this competition who I think could, as you say, integrate in some of the players they have at different times and just keep on rolling. And that loss last week, maybe not a reality check because they're obviously still flying, but just a reminder that it only takes a couple of losses and they're back in the pack. So I think to respond the way they did tonight after a bit of a sloppy first half was really impressive, and it tells you that their heads are screwed on at the moment.
Quick prediction, Jacob. Who are the two finishes 1 through 4 at the top of the men's table?
Oh, geez, it's a real scrap in there for those spots, isn't it? I mean, we just talked about Sandringham, the talent that they've got across the board. So you'd have to think they'll be thereabouts. Seen some really good performances from Mount Gambier. I think they'd have to be in the picture, and then, geez, that fourth spot could really go any number of ways.
It really could. Absolutely, but we're looking forward to next Friday night, Jacob, of course, where Sandringham coming to town. And
are you on load management, or are you here next week?
I believe I'll be here. Next
very
week,
good. We need you here for the next few games, because I think the way the men are shaping up, it looks like we will be doing a little bit of extra work.
I do believe so.
In the month of August.
That's more Nutella pizzas, you beauty. Sensational stuff.
Well, from the Kingborough Sports Centre here, in what was an eventful game in some ways you could describe it, but the second half, Hobart were able to capitalise and, able to work a few things out. And in the end, they get the win by 27 points, 93-66. On behalf of Jacob Dool, Justin Bryan, where we got Sam up there on the camera, Louis behind here, Sharpie, who
has been doing a lot of good work.
A lot of good work. I was going to say he's brought something over, but okay, yep, no
just
worries.
delivering a package, and Rod on the photography.
Yes, a Rod on photography, that as well too. So on behalf of our entire working crew here, we will see you next Friday for our home game against Sandringham.